Have you ever really stopped to ask yourself why you put things off? I don't just mean the big, scary projects, but the small things too. We're going to look at what procrastination really is, not as some failure of time management, but as something much deeper, something that has everything to do with the quiet, often difficult relationship we have with ourselves.
Procrastination isn't laziness. It's the quiet moment when you choose temporary comfort over your own self-respect.
And the worst part, it isn't the missed deadline.
It's the slow, invisible damage to how you see yourself every time you say, "I'll do it later," and don't.
So, to understand this, let's talk about someone. We'll call him Michael. And Michael is a man who lives almost entirely in the promise of tomorrow. You know that place? Tomorrow is where all his potential is realized, where his dreams finally happen. But today, well, today is for hiding from them. Every morning, Michael makes a list of promises to himself. Tomorrow, he's going to finally apply for that promotion. Tomorrow, for sure, he'll hit the gym. He's got to call his mom back, and he's absolutely going to start working on that business idea he's had for years. But tomorrow, somehow, it just never arrives. Instead, in the quiet moments of today, a different voice shows up. It's not a shout, it's a whisper. A heavy, dull ache right in his chest that just says, "You're falling behind." And then, as he's scrolling through his phone, watching other people announce their new jobs, their new relationships, that whisper gets a little louder. Everyone else is moving forward. And every single post feels like more proof that he's getting smaller. You see, in those moments of delay, we tell ourselves we're just relaxing, giving ourselves a break. But it's not really relief we're after. It's a shield. The real question is, what are we shielding ourselves from? For Michael, it's a shield against having to truly confront himself. He's hiding behind something called the illusion of potential. It's this idea that as long as you don't really try, you can hold on to the belief that you could be great. If you never try and fail, that illusion of your own capability can't ever die. And for so many of us, that illusion just feels safer than the truth. This fear, it didn't just appear out of nowhere. For Michael, it started when he was 12. He remembers coming home with a math test, a 95. He felt so proud. But his father, without even looking up from his paper, just asked one simple question. And that question taught Michael a lesson that would end up shaping his entire life. Being good wasn't enough. You had to be exceptional, or it didn't count. What happened to the other 5 points? That one sentence just hung in the air. It branded him. It created this world in his mind where love was conditional and only perfect achievement ever got a reaction. And right there, in that moment, his procrastination was born. It wasn't laziness, it was armor, a way to protect himself. Because if he never truly gave his all, he could never truly fail. He could always tell himself, "Oh, I could have done better if I'd really tried." Halfway started to feel like the safest place to be. So that armor trapped him in this really destructive loop. It starts with avoidance, putting the hard thing off. Then you get that little hit of temporary relief, that phew moment. But it fades so fast, doesn't it? And it's replaced by this wave of guilt and shame. That's when the inner critic gets loud, just punishing. And finally, a spike of pure anxiety forces you into action. Not out of inspiration, but out of self-loathing. It's a cycle that might look productive on the outside, but emotionally, it is a war zone. And here's the thing that's so important to understand. Our trust in ourselves isn't destroyed in one big failure. No, it's eroded, slowly, by hundreds of these tiny, seemingly insignificant broken promises. "I'll do it in an hour. I'll start after lunch. Okay, for real, I'll begin tomorrow." Each one is a small act of self-betrayal, a little piece of evidence you're showing yourself that you can't be trusted. For Michael, the turning point didn't come with a bang. It was quiet. His boss just casually mentioned that they'd considered him for a promotion, but they needed someone more proactive. And in that moment, Michael didn't feel angry. He just felt this profound sense of grief. Not for the job, for himself. He realized he was the one abandoning himself at the starting line, over and over again. Later that night, alone in his apartment, he wrote down a single question that changed everything. For the first time, he wasn't asking, "Why am I so lazy?" or "Why am I failing?" He asked, "Why do I keep hurting myself?" He finally saw his procrastination not as a character flaw, but as a form of subtle, ongoing self-harm. And that reframes the entire problem, doesn't it? Procrastination isn't a time management issue, it's an emotional regulation issue. It's about avoiding emotional exposure. When you face a meaningful task, you aren't just facing the work, you're facing your own identity and that deep, heavy fear that you might not be enough. In therapy, he finally heard the words that connected all the dots. You learned that love was conditional on performance. So now you withhold performance to protect yourself from conditional love. His procrastination was a kind of rebellion, a misguided, self-sabotaging attempt to protect himself from a world where he felt love had to be earned. If perfection is the price of admission, he was subconsciously saying, then I refuse to play. So where did healing start? Not with a fancy planner or a new productivity app. For Michael, it started with one small, almost laughably simple promise to himself. Just 10 focused minutes. The goal wasn't a perfect outcome. The goal was just effort. The simple act of showing up for himself, just this once, without needing to run away. And this, right here, is the heart of the whole shift. He stopped asking a question that came from a place of discipline. How do I force myself to do this? And he started asking a question that came from a place of compassion. Why am I afraid? That one little change in the question, well, it made all the difference. Which leads us to maybe the most important takeaway of all. The opposite of procrastination isn't productivity, it's self-compassion. It's starting to believe that you are worthy of the effort, not because you're guaranteed to succeed, but just because you exist, because you matter. When you really get down to it, procrastination isn't a time problem at all. It's a relationship problem. It's about the relationship you have with yourself. Because every postponed promise, every single I'll do it later, quietly teaches your own mind that your future doesn't matter enough to show up for today. But healing doesn't start with discipline, it starts with compassion. It starts with one small moment where you decide to stop abandoning yourself, and you choose to show up anyway.